Hey, it's Soul, bringing you the World of Warcraft. It's February 17th, 2017, and I don't have internet at the moment. It's like storming like hell hard outside. Internet went down maybe like half an hour to an hour before I wanted to, get the rest of my notes together, which are conveniently stored on Google Docs and all that. So I pretty much have like a couple of offline notes and whatever's off the top of my head. Whatever, let's recap. This week was a little bit light for me. I did a couple raid guides, including, I think, 3, maybe, including Trilliax, Spellblade, Alluriel, and Tychondrius. I also put together a hasty response to a video that Bellular put out the other day, where he was just kind of railing on certain aspects of the game. It was specific to gearing, mostly with the reward systems, and how it just doesn't feel very fulfilling for players, and, I responded because I wanted to give a couple of additional points to get a more balanced conversation together if you happen to look at both videos. So I do advise taking a look at one and then the other if you haven't looked at them already. To be honest, I was pretty anxious about putting the thing out. Like I said, I hastily put it together. I didn't really have a script. I just kind of just started talking and knew that I would jump cut everything, but I don't know, I was nervous because Bellular does have a very big following, and he is representative of a lot of certain sentiment among the vocal community. In this WoW space, a lot of commentators do want to have a more neutral tone on how they present their ideas and thoughts and opinions. But we're human. Sometimes we're more passionate about certain things, and we do want to express our opinions. That's that's part of what this platform's about. For me, who hasn't been here for very long, I'm still trying to find my space, and maybe I was just trying to play devil's advocate. But again, I was scared about what kind of backlash I would get. Fortunately, for the most part, that was unfounded. There were lots of disagreements here and there, but Bellular came by. He made some clarifying points. We discussed a little bit. It was pretty productive, as well as a lot of other people that have a lot of commenters such as yourself who came in, gave your inputs, gave your agreements or disagreements, but for the most part, it was all civil. It was cool. I really liked it, and I do intend to make a more balanced space, not exactly a safe space, but a place where people can talk and discuss and disagree, just without having to put so much emotion and anger into it. So a big thank you to Bellular and all the people who've been contributing to the conversation. Alright, news. So this tier 19, right? Tier 19? This tier is pretty much over. Over 5 guilds have completed Mythic Nighthold, and we're starting to see videos from each of these respective guilds. So my question for you guys is, so how was it? How was the tier? And I'm talking the whole damn thing. I'm talking from August 30th to February, whenever the heck Gul'dan was killed. And this tier, well, I guess I'll call it a tier, even though we had like a tier 0, and then we kind of moved on, and then we had, actual tier sets. Well, this block of time had lasted about 6 months. There's been ups and downs, there's been drama, there's been, developer reversals here and there. But my question for you guys, the boots on the ground, how did it feel for you guys? Next week, I plan on doing pretty much a full-on review of Legion from launch till right now. It's going to cover 2 perspectives. One is going to be for a new player who is just coming in, just diving right into Legion, pretending like this is like a boosted tune, and just kind of look around and be like, ooh, what are things like? But it's also going to cover the experience of Legion day to day, as we've seen changes and reiteration and nerfs and so on and so forth. So stay tuned for that. I hope it won't suck, but coming back to you guys, I want to see what you guys think. Would you recommend this to a friend? Or what are some highlights that you had, or like cool revelations like, oh my god, I did not know that Illidan was coming back. Gasp. Most of the other news that I remember or have access to is related to the PTR, so let's talk about the current build. So this recent build enabled a lot of pretty significant stuff. The Cathedral of Eternal Night is available for testing now. I really wanted to at least go there and glance inside or something, but I can't. But it's available for testing. I'm really happy that this is going to be the second dungeon that's going to be introduced into Legion after Karazhan, and I like that. I wasn't too big of a fan of the dungeons that were introduced in Cataclysm later on, because that was in the final tier, and I don't know, it just feels like even though they were pretty cool, they looked pretty nice, it just doesn't seem like they got the kind of traffic that they should have gotten, unlike how I'm pretty sure Legion's dungeons are. I gotta admit that as much as people carry on about the whole oh, you know, they rehash dungeons with multiple difficulties and things like that. I think it does let a lot of credence that now that dungeons are being introduced, but on top of that we have things like, you know, myth dungeons and keystone dungeons. We're bound to see lots of traffic coming into these dungeons. So I'm quite happy that dungeons aren't being neglected. And speaking of, I don't think mob time walking has been enabled yet. I think right now it's Cataclysm. Yeah, I think it's Cataclysm time walking now. It's like, come on, bring in mob time walking so that we can say, oh yeah, cool, 715's out. Here's the mob time walking stuff. We gotta wait for a while. It can't. I'm ranting. Moving on. Broken Isles Pathfinder Part 2 is ready to be tested, and it's as easy as logging in, going to an NPC, I believe it's the pet vendor person over in Dalaran, you talk to him, and ta-da, you get flights. You know, again, this is for testing. So from what very little that I did, you're able to fly like right, you know, in and out of Dalaran, like right then and there, and you can zip around the Broken Isles and pray that you won't get like suddenly dismounted because you're hovering over an indoor area and whoops. I myself haven't done much testing on it, but hey, if you're jonesing to at least start, you know, bumming around or flying over stuff or trying to find cool things to explore, go for it. Part of the reason this is enabled now is so they can also test the quests that are related to unlocking your class mounts. I was only able to dive in just a little bit into it because apparently there's a lot of crafting materials, or there are certain crafting materials that you need in order to get started. I know for the Paladin one, it started off with getting certain leatherworking items, and then after that it was mining and jewel crafting stuff. So with Flight, we know what to do. We know the achievements, we know the milestones that we have to fulfill in order to unlock flying, but it looks like for those class quest mounts, you're gonna have to do a little bit of work. You might have to spend a little bit of money, oh well, but I'm looking forward to it. There's some rebalancing to keystone dungeons, like for example the overflowing affix that's been removed. There are also some small, I think 5% nerfs to Tyrannical and Fortified, but there are new affixes. There's only one level 4 and 3 level 7s, and thankfully I have the notes back here and I'll tell you about them real quick. We've got Bursting, and I think we saw that at BlizzCon. This one's a level 4 and it causes non-boss enemies to explode when they die. You're gonna take 10% of your total health as damage over 4 seconds, but it stacks, so you know, just don't blow everything up at the same time. That one's a level 4, not so bad. The 3 level 7s though, they seem pretty brutal. Fell explosives are gonna cause mobs to throw out a bomb that, if you're standing too close to it, you're gonna take half of your maximum health as damage. Quake will cause members of your party to, well, shake within a small radius around themselves, causing 20% damage to their total health, and it interrupts spellcasting. And Grievous, and I'm just looking at the notes, it just says, while below 90% health, you're afflicted by a grievous wound. I'm gonna guess that this is like other mechanics that we've dealt with, where if you get like some sort of debuff, but you need to be healed to 90 to 100% of your health in order for that debuff to fall off. Basically, you want everyone at full health at all times. This stuff should be testable right now, so go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong about any of this stuff, but as soon as I'm able to, I really want to try to dive in and check it out too. Some, but not all of the legendary crafted stuff have affixes to them, and they're pretty interesting. The Cloth legendary apparently lets you see during the day, and at night makes you less than detectable to not enemy players, but just to mobs. So that's neat and kind of cool. But the leather and mail ones, that makes it so that when you're killing monsters out and about, eventually you can fly, basically, which is way better, I think. So it's a little weird that the cloth affix is different from the mail and leather, which seem to share. Part of me is thinking that between the leather and mail ones, maybe only one affix is supposed to be on one of the armor type and the other is just... they just left it there, it's a placeholder, or maybe they're still just trying to decide which one is going to have it. Meanwhile, the plate one has no affix yet, at least from the research that I was doing until I lost my damn internet connection. I couldn't find anything. What's cool about all of them though is that they all have 3 gem sockets, which is pretty darn nice considering. I mean, heck, in hindsight, I think it'd be cool if they took all the legendaries and, took certain stats away from what's currently there and just dump a bunch of sockets instead, so that way people can have a little bit more control and customization over what they want to do. Finally, Ian Hezekostas talked about artifact power and some of the challenges and problems that they've been facing over Legion, as well as proposing some solutions. One thing he talked about was the rate at which it was acquired, and the admission that Mav Soul runs are pretty much the fastest way to farm artifact power. Their solutions are going to come from several different changes. One is that basically you're going to get a lot more artifact power coming from raids. That's already something that's been hotfixed in this week, and I can definitely tell. The other changes are going to come in 7.2, and one of them is to change the amount of artifact power that you get from let's say a keystone dungeon, depending on how long the run is. So basically, while Maw of Souls is going to get nerfed, another place like the Archway, which I hate, is going to get a nice buff to the amount of artifact power that you get. On top of that too, from your weekly chest or your chest of disappointment, you're going to get a nice bit of artifact power from that as well. So that's not bad. I think a lot of players, including myself, is going to enjoy that. Don't get me wrong though, that doesn't really change the fact that there's going to be certain players, especially with the new artifact traits and whatnot that are coming, there's certain players that are going to game the system and, well, not even game the system, but they're going to master that. They're going to figure out, because they're so smart, they're going to figure out exactly the most efficient way to farm artifact power. It's going to be, this dungeon, at this level, and farm the crap out of it, and that's how you win. And that's okay. That defines hardcore gameplay, not bad implementation of design, such as with artifact power distribution. What it does do, though, is just kind of make it by and large that Mob Souls is no longer like the thing to do. I mean, maybe you can still do it. For all I know, that still might be the best way to farm artifact power, but it's just that if you're doing other activities or doing other dungeons, you're not totally screwed out of efficient artifact power farming. The other change Ian talked about was something that I only touched like super lightly in a previous video that I've done like once upon a time. Players might have noticed that as soon as their artifact weapon got to rank 35 or so, the required artifact power to gain subsequent levels, even all the way up to 54, it doesn't quite scale that high. I think I had said something along the lines of reaching escape velocity as soon as you get to that trait, because you're going to find yourself getting traits at a pretty brisk pace. Which is funny, I say brisk, but I totally fell off on really giving a damn about doing many activities at all. I remember I was like, oh, I'm gonna hit trait 54 like in a couple weeks, haha. I'm hella not. But that's beside the point. Mathematically, the artifact level power requirements just kind of taper off. It's not that bad. The wording Ian said was exponential, that they want to have the artifact power requirements for these new subsequent levels that are going to come in 7.2 to be exponential. They want it to take longer. Now this does sound like a nerf, because people, once they get to let's say rank 60 or so, it's going to feel slower. People are going to slow down. But the whole point is that with this exponential increase in the artifact power requirements as well as artifact knowledge, you're going to find that the disparity between people who are farming really hard and farming not so hard, it's going to be smaller than it is now. Certain elements are still going to expect people to be at rank, I think 80. I think that's the highest, but people are still going to expect others to be at the highest possible rank in order to be viable for a raid, or you're kicked or something like that. But going past that more extreme level of play, to the more general audience, not even casuals, but just people who don't work as hard as like a top 100 guild, the power gap is just meant to be smaller. And as artifact knowledge is gained, you're going to find that a lot more folks are going to be able to, okay, boom, they'll jump to that next level or two. So that's at least how I'm getting it. But of course, you guys can share your thoughts about this or anything else that I talked about. That's the news for this week. And I apologize for kind of the light content. I know it was like kind of light, or otherwise it was super narrow and specific. Next week, you should see some more general stuff from me. I mentioned that whole Legion review. I think I have another video essay on the pipe, and I'm probably going to do another kind of YouTube featurette next week. I looked at the channels that you guys have been providing for me, and I noticed that there are a lot of gold making channels, at least the ones that you provided for me. So kind of as a preview, you can expect either this one or the next one. It's going to be like a whole medley of, hey, here are a ton of gold making channels. Let's go through them, and I'll try to be a little bit more specific to each channel instead of just kind of give them like a minute or so. As always, you can hit me up in a comment below, or on the Facebooks or the Twitters, or during my streams. I'm streaming on both YouTube and Twitch on the times that I specify below. So drop in, say hi, see what's up, ask a question. It might end up turning into a video. video. Mr. Can you do a thing on casuals versus hardcore? So yeah, you might see that next week too. Anyway, like and share because you care, sub if you want to see more content, and well, I guess I'm out for the week. You guys have a rain-free and an internet-filled week, and I'll see you guys later. I'm Soul. Stay breezy, guys. Stupid ass rain in my power.
I'm just gonna take all the ads and tank these motherfuckers.
You got this.
Oh, they hit so hard. That's death.
We're doing fucking post. Here we go. Motherfuckers.
Whew.
Right.